Okay, in this video, we are going to add a paddle so that we can move it around. And eventually we want to be able to hit the ball with the paddle. So let us start by thinking about what a paddle is. A paddle is a sprite because it moves around, but rather than having a fixed velocity, it would be moving based on the user interaction. So what I want to create is that if the user presses the arrow keys, the left or right arrow key, they would be able to move the paddle to the left and right. So let's go start building something together. We can start by creating a paddle class. So let's say, paddle.js. So class paddle extends sprite. And so right away, let's go and export paddle and also import a sprite. Okay, now we can also go and bring the constructor of a sprite here. And for now, we're just going to have all these variables called the constructor of the superclass. Now let us go in the main.js and import the paddle. And let's try to create a paddle. Right? We can go here. Maybe I can just copy this and start modifying it. So let's call this paddle, new paddle. And so maybe 10 for the height is enough, and I'm gonna go for something like 75 for the width. And I'm gonna keep this right at the bottom edge. So I'm gonna say the height -10, then -30, and I want to put the paddle in the middle of the screen. So width divided by 2, but you also need to consider that like the width of the paddle is much larger than 10. So really, if we want to precisely put it in the middle, we gotta do width -75. Okay, I'm gonna keep the color to be blue. And so this is going to have our paddle to kind of move in a diagonal direction. So I'm going to give it a 0 velocity on the y-axis, so it stays where it is, but it moves to the right, for example, with a velocity of 2. So we got to actually go and do something like this. So paddle, right? So it moves and it goes outside of the area. And if I let's make that smaller so it goes slower, you can see, right? And if I give this like a -1, then it goes to the left direction. And here's the thing, if I give this like 0 and 0, then it just stays stationary. And that's actually the state that I wanted to begin. Like, I don't want to give it an initial velocity. I want it to stay in the middle. But once I press the left or right arrow, I want the paddle to move around. So let's go and see how we can capture this idea. So we got to hook up our paddle class to event listener for when somebody presses a key. So there are many different events associated with the keyboards. So one of them is like key down handler. And so when somebody presses the key down, like in any key, they press it down, this event is going to fire up. So we can do it this way. We can say, let's get hold of the DOM, and then let's add a event listener. So whenever a paddle is instantiated, at that point, we're going to listen to the key down event, right? And what we want to do is, when somebody fired up this event, we basically want this function to be called. So this dot key down handler. Okay, so then let's backtrack and see what happens. We're gonna create a paddle. At that point, we're gonna register an event listener, and if anyone goes and presses any of the key down, this function is going to be fired up. And when it fires up, the add event listener also passes an event object to it. So let's call this E for event, and the this is going to happen for like all the keys, but we only care about left arrow and right arrow. So we can check one of the, like this E object, the event object, is going to have a lot of attributes. If it's a result of a key down event, one of the attributes it's going to have, it's going to be key. And that key is going to actually tell us which of the keys on the keyboard was pressed down. And we can check it to see if it is arrow right. So if it is arrow right, and else if it is arrow left. And if there's anything other than that, we basically don't really want to do anything, right? So we only want to react to when a user presses the right arrow and the left arrow keys, and that's about it. And remember here, the direction of the x-axis will define which way the paddle will move. If it's a positive value, it will go right. If it's a negative value, it will go left. And we can like create a variable. We can go here and do something like this. Let's call this, what is a good name? Displacement. So this shows the amount of displacement, and let's like set it to 1. And if I go here and then I want this to like move to the to right, then I can say dx is, well, I gotta say this dot dx is this dot displacement. And if I want it to move left, I can say this dot dx is to the other angle. Okay, so so this is going to be interesting, and what we want to do is we want to go give this a try. But before we give it a try, I want to, oh well, actually I can just show you, like right now I'm pressing the keys and nothing happens. And so the reason nothing happens is that when you pass a event handler like this, right, you basically like pass a function here, and this is a callback function in another function. This variable that I'm using here, it's going to be assigned, or it's going to take the execution context of add event listener. So when you go and call this, this variable actually going to be the target element of the event listener rather than referring to this class. So if you want to override this value from what JavaScript by default sets, you have to go here and do bind and then pass the object, this object again to it. Okay, so now if I go here and I try to move it, you can see that it moves around. Okay, cool. And so one of the other things that we may want to do is, and now this is going to go, so if I want to refine this behavior, like right now I just like press the arrow once and it moves to the right, and I press the left arrow once and it moves to the left. That might be the desired behavior. Sometimes you probably experience this in a game. You want people to like continue pressing a button for it to move, and so like when I press the left, I want it to move left, and when I lift my hand up, I want it to stop moving left. So if I want that behavior to manifest here, then I need to capture the key up event, right? Because key down is when you press a key down, and then key up is when you leave it, when you leave your finger off it and the key comes up again. So we kind of need to go create something similar to this and say key up handler. Now what happens with the key up handler is that if like rather than like you want it to stop, so you want to like set these to 0, right? And so you want to do key up, and so if I go back here and like I'm like I press the right and it moves right and it stops. So I have to keep like pressing left to move left. Maybe like 1 is too small, maybe change that to something like 7, and yeah, this looks a little better, right? So it moves and then it stops. Okay, so that's the behavior of the paddle basically hooked up to the keyboard so it goes left and right. We're gonna wrap up the video here, and we still have some work to do with the paddle. We don't want it to like get past the edges of the canvas, so we'll fix that in the next video.